You may have noticed, if you're a long-time viewer, that there's not been as much board gaming content on this channel. Let's talk about why. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Gaming Emporium. My name is Luke, and yeah, if you're a long-time viewer, then you probably would have noticed there's not been as much board game content, if really any, on this channel for a little while. And I kind of need to feel like I talk about it a little bit. There's been a few things that have been bothering me about it. I'll start at the beginning, start why I feel like I need to talk about this sort of stuff. I looked at my stats for board gaming across the entirety of the year, not too long ago, and I had the realization that I had only played about 100 games physically. And that was about mid-August-ish. And when I compared that to previous years, I had played somewhere in the 400s over 2022, 2023, 2024. And that was surprising to me. So I had a bit of a think about why that was. At the time of recording, I played about 135 games this year, physically. Obviously a lot more on BGA and things like that. But there has been a definite drop-off in games played. And there's been a few reasons why that is. And as a result, it has meant that there have been fewer videos made this year about board gaming. And this one's kind of more for the people who are curious, those who are interested in the content creation element of things, and as to why things are changing, why priorities might change, and why different content might be produced at different times. First of all, as you may have noticed, I am not in the same room as I used to be in when I was recording this sort of videos. Laura and I moved house in June, which was great, because we managed to sell our old house whilst we were on holiday in France. Bizarrely, we were off skiing, and I got a phone call on the mountain saying, "Yep, we've got an offer in on your house." I was like, "Oh, cool." So we sold our old place, we bought this place, and we moved in June. But because we sold it, we thought, well, let's get things packed away. So a lot of the board games went into storage, so that we were ready to go whenever we got the nod from the solicitors that we could go. And it was less stuff to worry about. It was, you could even say, one less thing to worry about.
One less thing to worry about. One less thing to worry about.
And then we went to Aircon, and we had all the usual fun times we have around Aircon, and that's always good fun times as well. And that, is great. Shortly after that, or around that time, I can't remember the exact dates on it, Ross, who is Board Game Husband and the person who I usually do these board game videos with, had his second child, welcomed his second child into the world. And that is fantastic news for him. Obviously, that means that his board game time has collapsed quite considerably. And, family stuff always takes priority. I don't begrudge him that at all. And frankly, that just makes life a little bit more difficult in terms of game playing. But also on my end, around January time, I changed jobs. I'm still working for the same company I was before, but now I'm working at a different location, which means I'm away from home at least one night a week. So all of those things have kind of accumulated into not being able to play games as much. I mean, it's it's about 25% of what I would normally do in a year over these few months. And that is a shame, because I do enjoy this hobby, but I do feel like my taste in games has gotten a little bit more specific. Because I've had less time to play, I've gotten way more picky about the games I want to play, and a lot more critical of the games I do choose to play. Take an example, Endeavour Deep Sea, which is tucked in over there as a birthday present from Ross. At this point, I have played it a couple of times, and when I looked at it initially, I wasn't sure about it. And I thought, okay, this might be it. And I played it a couple of times in the early missions, and it's a kind of an engine builder game where you're taking different actions based on different characters you've got, different resources you have, and moving your ship around doing exploration stuff. And you can play it team mode, or you can play it competitive. I kind of prefer the co-op mode, personally. But you're just sort of running around doing different things to complete missions. And I'm undecided. A lot of people I've played this game with have loved the game. And I'm still undecided. I don't know if it's because I've only played those early missions and it's just not sung yet for me. I need to get into the deeper stuff, pun unintended. I don't know if I need to get into that deeper stuff to go through the deeper missions to enjoy it more. And yeah, I don't know. It's just one of those things that hasn't gone. On the other hand, Vantage is a new game from Stonemaier that I have really gotten into, that Ross and I played remotely. We were able to set it up, both of us have our own copy, we set it up on the table, and we sent voice memos to each other telling us what we were doing on our turns. It was great fun. It worked out really nicely. So I might start looking at doing more games that way, doing them sort of remote physical plays, because it's fun. I like doing that. I've done a couple of games like that before. I did My Island and Great Western Trail in that way before, and those are really interesting games to do that way. It's really fun to have that connection with people. But because my gaming has dropped off, I felt that has had a direct impact on the videos I'm creating. And because Ross is unavailable to play a lot, he's also not as available to record as much. And for board game videos, I kind of prefer having someone to bounce off of.
What about me?
I can't really do that with Sploot here. It's a good EV, but I can't do anything really talking to you about board games. You don't even listen to the rules.
Why you gotta be so mean?
And for me, board game videos are more about having that conversation. Which is why I still do the podcasts I do. I still do Bucket List Board Gamers. And we have chats about board games. And that's fun. That's always good times, and you should go and listen to that. Link in the description below. That is kind of my main outlet of talking about board games these days, because I don't necessarily want to sit here. I can sit here and talk to you about it, but I prefer doing the videos where I will talk with someone else and talk through my thoughts and talk about the board game and be like, oh, I think you would enjoy this. And I feel like that's a little more enjoyable for me to make and for, therefore, you to watch. Whereas with the Pokemon stuff that I've been doing, and that has kind of taken over things a little bit, because as I've talked about before, Laura and I went to Japan for our honeymoon last October. We are going back. That is absolutely guaranteed. We went to a lot of different Pokemon centres, and it's fair to say it's taken my interest a little bit, and I've been watching a lot of the PokeTubers. And part of this channel's goal, particularly when we rebranded from eCrits of to Game Emporium, is to kind of highlight other gaming outlets. You know, talking about RPGs, board games, video games. And Pokemon was that first love for me in terms of gaming. And yeah, it's fair to say, yeah, it's got me good again. Which is great, because it's a lot easier for me to sit down and record the videos that I've been doing with Tom. Because he and I don't have kids, frankly. And we have a lot more flexibility in our schedule. We're more able to say, hey, do you want to game for a couple of hours and just sort of play this, chit-chat about stuff, play this ROM hack, or go through a randomizer, or do a couple of challenge videos. And they're pretty straightforward. They're a lot easier to play and go through, whereas the board game stuff is a little bit more tricky. What I'm hoping to do, though, in the future is to get more games on the table and record more of those and do more kind of playthrough content, a bit more chit-chatting stuff about board games. I want to try and get back into that, because I do really enjoy doing it. It's just been awkward to do. Obviously, moving into this place has taken a lot. This was the first room I unpacked fully, to be honest, because it was easier, although I am looking around and there are still boxes in the background. It's just difficult, and I think that's something that is possibly a consequence of getting older. I'm 33 now. My free time with people is not as flexible as it once used to be. And that's not a bad thing. Like, it's all for good reasons as to why people are unavailable. Like, it's family, or it's illness, or it's whatever. And it just means that the gaming is a little bit less frequent. It's not gone away entirely, but it's just not as common. So I'm definitely hoping that as the year plays out and I go into next year, I can definitely get more gaming done. To the extent of, we've got a Geekinson table that will be arriving probably December, early in the new year, sometime around that, which will go up here. That'll be great, because that means I can showcase games a little bit more. But I think I'm definitely at the point where my collection is more or less where I want it to be. I don't have any qualms about seeing the new releases at Essen and going, oh, well, cool, I want to get all of those. I'm going to send my friend John off to go and get those for me and then come back and do it. That's just not how I am. I'm not at the stage in my gaming anymore where I want to go and purchase everything. I think as I said earlier, I've gotten more focused about what it is that I do enjoy. And that's okay. We go through our cycles of going through that manic purchasing phase, and then we get to a point of actually let's just collect it, because there's 190 odd games in this room. Am I going to play all of them? A lot? Probably not. Some of them I've played quite a lot. Flip 7 down here, just behind the table, that's been played a lot this year because my family loves it, so it's a very easy game to play. Lorcana is a game that Laura and I play quite frequently. We go to a local store and we play a lot there. I guess I'm having these sorts of thoughts about the collection and what I want to be doing in the hobby, because I still love this hobby. It's a great social outlet. It's a great way of just detoxing from all the digital elements that you get. He's playing a lot of video games, but being able to sit down and play a board game is always fun. And I think back to, as I was unpacking the boxes, looking at some of the games that I have and going, okay, do I still want this in the collection? And I was thinking about that when I was packing them up as well. I was like, do I want to lug this from one house to the other? And it got me thinking about those games that got me into the hobby early on. The first game that I played that was in this sort of modern era about 10 years ago now was Tokaido. Tokaido is a game where you are travelling along the Tokaido Pass from Edo to Kyoto, or Kyoto to Edo, depending on the direction you can take, and go either way. And it's just about having the nicest journey of making your way through Japan and just having a nice time. You're taking cards for going to hot springs, you're meeting people, you're having wonderful food, you're painting the scenery. There's a lot of really cool stuff that you don't necessarily see in board games, or at least I didn't see in board games until I started playing them. And I still have Tokaido, it's over there. It's the old Funforge model, and I'm really glad that Stonemaier picked it up and have given it a little bit of new life and a solo mode, which I hope is better than the 2-player mode that's in the game, because Ghost Player was not fun to play with. It really sort of ruined the vibe. But when I got thinking about that, I got thinking about a conversation that I had at AirCon in 2023 with Chaz Marler, and we had a chat about the board games that started in our collection. In fact, here it is. You join us now in a very green room, because I'm here with Chaz Marler. Hi.
Well, hello there.
How are you doing?
I'm doing quite well. Compared to this room, I feel like my complexion is quite healthy.
The lighting is fantastic. That spotlight just there, it's great. It's good for us. We know that there's people working in theatre that know how to deal with the lighting.
Yes. So yeah, I'm awake still. It's day 3-4 of the convention, and yeah, I'm still conscious, so that's a good sign.
You're doing good. So we're talking about the games that got us into the hobby. So what game was it that got you in deep into the hobby?
Well, I was always I was thinking about this, and I realized going all the way back to my childhood, I always kind of had some games that were present, and there was I had the old Pac-Man game, I think by Mattel, that had a plastic Pac-Man and little white marbles, and you'd go through and kind of eat the marbles, and it had plastic ghosts. And we had one based on Donkey Kong, and just little, these weird games like that. And I would usually, I'm the youngest of 3 kids, and I'm 6 years younger than my next oldest sibling. So I was just young enough that my brothers and sisters didn't want to have anything to do with me.
Sure.
So I spent a lot of time playing those games by myself. So playing those things, even by myself, kind of sparked, a little initial thing. But so that kind of started it. And then, through college and stuff, kind of it tapered off a little bit, just from being busy. So, yeah, to answer your question, when I got to the point where I started getting back into the hobby, I remember I was sweeping my porch at home. I got a phone call from a friend who lives on the other side of the country, and he called me up, ecstatic, telling me about this game that it was like a game he'd never played before. It's like, you have these cards, and you actually have these different cards you'll have a pool from, and you'll pick some on your turn, you'll buy some, and you'll build your own deck. It's like this deck building game. It's like nothing I've ever seen. And listening to him going, I can't even imagine how that would work. And of course it was Dominion.
Yeah, of course.
So I tracked down a copy of it, locally, and played it actually with his brother, who still lived locally to me. And he's like, just kind of, wow, this is interesting. And then after that, I discovered a version of Battleship which
Oh,
is
yeah.
Battleship Galaxies.
Ooh.
It came out to coincide with the really terrible Battleship movie,
Of course.
but it was this twist on Battleship that kind of showed me, hey, this weird thing with deck building
Mhm.
isn't just a fluke. Games are getting a lot more interesting. Even games based on these old IPs and old ideas, they're no longer just roll and move or really simple things. And the Battleship Galaxies game has little miniature ships, and it still uses kind of the letter number grid system for getting hits. It was a lot more sophisticated. You know, you're rolling dice, you're moving your ships around outer space, you're launching, like some ships have little mini ships that launch out, and you have special powers for your ships. And I think Battleship Galaxies
Yeah.
I think that was the one that really made things click in my mind going, I want to see what else, the hobby has now. And from then it's just been a flood of things. So I think Dominion and Battleship Galaxies are the two that really opened the door for me again.
Have you gone back to them recently to keep giving them a go and see how your taste has developed since then?
Yeah. With Dominion, like I mentioned, my friend's brother is local. That's who I played it with. He just fell in the deep end with Dominion. He has, I think, every card,
Wow.
every promo, everything. He's actually at like the Board Game Geek Con.
Oh, great.
Sometimes he sends me a list of, hey, when you go to the promo store, these are the ones I still need. So I go on missions. I'm looking for the cards.
Nice.
So whenever he and I get together about every 3 months or so to game, and that's what in our rotation still is the latest stuff from Dominion. And Battleship Galaxies is I haven't played it in a couple of years at this point, but I I did recently find at my local game shop I was browsing around, I found another copy of it in like the bargain bin.
Wow.
So I got it and dumped it into my original box. I just doubled the amount of ships and cards that I have. Yeah. So I got it with the intention of introducing it to my daughter, and so that's on the short list.
Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah.
Wow. How do you think those games have tailored your taste going forward? Do you still look at deck builders, or do you gravitate more towards other themes or other mechanisms?
Oh, that's a really good one. Well, I think I'm a little bit of an omni gamer. Kind of dabble in as everything. I don't have one set. I definitely have my favorites, but I don't have like one thing of I like that kind of game best. I think that the deck building in Dominion to me still seems like the old school kind of master of the genre in a way. So a lot of other deck building games to me still kind of get compared, at least in the back of my mind, to what did they pull from Dominion, and what did they twist and do differently now, and how is this deck building mechanism being applied in new ways? But it always in my mind gets up the line drawn back to Dominion.
Yeah.
So in some ways, Dominion has colors other games for me in that way. And the Battleship Galaxies, and its type of theme, I think it's more of the Ameritrash rolling dice and everything. So it fits, I think, with what I gravitate towards a lot more naturally. And so some of the problems that some gamers can have as they get into the hobby for a while is you'll get your collection of games, and new games come out that spark your interest. Oh, I like that game. But then you get to a point where you ask yourself, well, this game is really cool, but would I choose this over this other game I already have that does this? And the Battleship Galaxies has survived that enough that similar games have come along, but I would still go back and play this again.
Yeah.
So it has survived that way. So it kind of stands, it has enough uniqueness to it. It's a little cheesy of a game, but it still is dear to me enough that it to me continues to have an influence on my tastes, and I gravitate towards it still.
It's all memories from playing it previously, right?
A lot of it,
got that going, and that just makes the memories going forward, which is fantastic.
Oh yeah, absolutely. A lot of the games that I obtain, I get because I'm standing in the store looking at it. A little thought bubble opens up. I'm thinking, who would I like to play this with? And if there's someone, I'd love to play this with my wife, or with my daughter, or this friend of mine. If someone pops in that thought bubble, those type of not even the nostalgia, but the memories of the thoughts of the memories we could make from it.
Yeah.
That's like, that's what motivates me to accumulate the games that I do.
Wonderful. Well, Jazz, thank you so much for the insight. It's been great talking to you about this.
You're very welcome.
Time to move on. Ooh, sorry, you thought you were about to say anything else.
I hope we can have another conversation like this, and maybe next time we'll be in an orange room.
Maybe. We'll go through the entire spectrum of the rainbow. Thank you, Jazz, for that conversation. And if you want to see more of Jazz, I'll link his YouTube channel down below. Obviously, part of Watch It Played and Game Night Picks, so you can go see what Jazz is up to, talking about all sorts of fun stuff with board games. That conversation has got me thinking about the games that got me into the hobby, and Tokaido was one of them. And it's still in the collection. I still play it from time to time, nowhere near as much as I used to. But it's there. It still hangs around. Stone Age was one that I used to get Laura into the hobby, and she and I still play it very occasionally. It's still around. Photosynthesis is one we played on our first date. I've still got it stored over there. So let me know in the comments below what games you played early on, and do you still play those games? I'd really like to know, is those games still in your collection? Do you still think about those? Ignore the continuity error. I guess ultimately the point of all this is to celebrate the hobby however you want to. I really want to be able to get into more solo gaming, which is why I'm taking games down with me to the hotel. So you can, as you can see, I could set them up and I could play them there. I'm trying to do more digital gaming with people, playing them on Tabletop Simulator or Board Game Arena, so that I can chat with people and actually play through the games. It's definitely about playing the games that I've got. I really wanted to play, at the start of this year, I wanted to play pretty much everything that's on this shelf behind me. Those are the sort of games I went through. I ranked the games I wanted to play most, and they were the ones that stood out. There's been a few that have come and gone since then. I've played them and they've moved on, or I've played them and gone, ooh, more. And it's ultimately how we want to enjoy the hobby. I'm kind of rambling here because I guess I've kind of gone to the point of like, what is the point of all this? And since we started doing the Pokemon videos, there has been a gradual increase on people here, which I'm incredibly grateful of. I got a notification of saying that the channel is about 6 years old, which is nuts. But I don't do this as a job. I do this for fun. And that's why the content has kind of shifted into what I'm having fun doing. It's not been a case of I don't want to talk about board games anymore. It's been I don't have the time to feel like I've invested into the hobby to be able to then talk about it, which does feel kind of nuts. There's always going to be the capacity to sit down and talk to someone about your top 50 games, right? Or your top 10 worker placement games, or games to get into the hobby, or that sort of thing, which is what we're kind of doing on the Bucket List Board Gamers, and maybe I'll try and incorporate some of that going forward. But ultimately, there's a lot of board game content out there, and I encourage you to go and watch it. There's a lot of great stuff going on there, like Chaz's channels that we talked about earlier, going Paul Deming and Watch It Played, and Before You Play, and Brothers Mirth, and all that sort of stuff. Go and check them out. They dedicate their lives to doing this, and I just dedicate the small corner of time I have carved out after work and fun time when I have weekends and I can sit down and I can play games with people. But it's not going to stop me from going to conventions. We're going to AirCon again this year in 2026. Jeez. We're almost there. That's scary. Yeah, I've kind of lost my train of thought of where I was going to go with this. I'm going to enjoy this hot chocolate and just think about it for a moment longer. I found the train of thought. Ultimately, this is a call out to people who are in the hobby and don't feel like you are in the hobby. Because you're not getting the latest games from Essen, you're not backing the latest Kickstarters, you're not up with the newest games. You don't have to be. You could have 6 games in your collection, you could have 2 games, you could have 1 game in your collection and still be a gamer and still have the time to play a board game every so often. You are still a part and a proud member of this hobby. And I think that's great. I would love to have more time to sit down and play all of these games that are behind me. At the moment, I don't. And I don't have the people to play it with, which is kind of the main pressing thing. Sometimes I'll have time to do it, and I don't have people to play with. And that's a bummer. We're having this problem with our D&D session, and a lot of D&D and RPG players will understand the gripes of scheduling. It gets tricky, particularly when people have kids, or we move away. I mean, we moved about 10 minutes or so away from where we used to be. We moved further away from where we were before that. So we're kind of gradually moving away from the D&D group. But it doesn't mean we enjoy the hobby any less. And in my case, it's a case of I've gotten a bit more particular about the games I want to play because I had less time gaming in my life. And that's okay. It just means that when I get to gaming, I want to play those games. I don't want to sit down and play another game of Ark Nova that I don't enjoy. It's fine if people do enjoy that. That's absolutely your prerogative. Not for me. I want to sit down and want to play these games. These are fun. I like these. I've tried them. Most of them. I haven't tried... there's a few in here I haven't tried recently. So, yeah. It's kind of a downer end to this conversation. I don't really know where to go with it, other than to say there is going to be more content in the board game. Let me know in the comments below what you've been playing, and if there's anything on this shelf you would like me to talk about, because maybe I'll just start doing that. Maybe I'll just pick a game and do a 10-minute spot talking about things, and just talking about the game itself. That might be interesting to do as a new little editorial challenge to myself, and, if you got this far in the video, like and subscribe. Why not? Doesn't hurt. And, we'll chat again soon. Take care of yourselves.